My name is Misty Berlin, and I want to talk about strong female characters in video games. What exactly makes a female character strong? Most female characters are stereotyped and hyper-sexualized, which undermines their constructions. In different videos in this series, I discuss the other problems and negative effects of these depictions and why they need to change. For now, I'd like to talk about some of the characteristics that I've seen most of the strong female characters in games designed with. These traits are applicable to any gender, but need to be implemented more often for females in order for them to break from their confining roles. These constructions mostly function to make the character more humanized and less stereotyped, and they're not in order of importance. To begin with, strong female characters aren't hypersexualized. Hypersexualization refers to an overemphasis on sexual body parts and an idealized body design. While a woman is entirely capable of being sexy as well as powerful, designing characters in this way turns them into sex objects. When this is done, her identity cannot be separated from her body. Again, I addressed this more thoroughly in a different video. They also have personalities that are not defined by gender, nor are they confined to gender roles. Characters need to be designed as human first, then male or female. If their personality is dependent on their gender, then she or he is valued based on that. Shouldn't their value be based on their contributions to the story? I also want to distinguish that characters can be distinctly masculine or feminine without being stereotyped. Strong female characters are also in control of their own sexual desires and sexuality. They are normal people, and their sexuality shouldn't be used to fill a male fantasy.
Lord Kratos, come and play with us. You look tired, soldier. He chose us. What about me? How does he keep it up? What a spark.
How many games have you played as a woman that has sexual desires that she chooses to act on? A couple? How about games where you play as a man who gets the girl? And no, I'm not considering games with optional romances, such as Dragon Age and Mass Effect, because these are not primary narrative functions. Most game developers aren't interested in funding games where the player plays a woman kissing a man because they think male players won't want to do this. They're forgetting that nearly half of their audience is female. Strong characters are also well written and not cliched. Female characters are often used as accessories in a male story, so their personalities aren't as fleshed out and given the same attention. Or they're put into generic tropes and not given genuine stories. On top of that, games starring female protagonists receive 40% less budget than games with a leading male, making it even harder to write a unique character. Stereotyping characters makes them less defined individuals. Another trait of strong characters is that they drive the narrative. Whether they are primary or secondary protagonists, it is their actions that keep the narrative moving forward. Women are often used to give a male character purpose in his quest instead of contributing to the quest itself. But the story needs to depend on the characters in order for them to be important. Lastly, these characters have a varying range of emotion and skills. In an attempt to create strong female characters, many end up just being bitches or beefcakes. Perhaps this is because the word strong with male characters is often falsely associated with aggression and violence. Characters in games that show a wide range of emotion, from happiness to vulnerability, have a more defined personality. The main problem with females in games is that they have, for a long time, been rather unremarkable except for their bodies. Males are typically given the spotlight, attention, and therefore the more detailed character personalities. There are many more strong male characters than there are female. With all of that said, there are a few female characters in video games that I consider to be especially strong, positive, and accurate representations of women.
Over here! Ha! No, you don't! Dr. Freeman, I presume.
Alex Vance is a character from Half-Life 2. She's one of the most important characters, second only to Gordon Freeman, whom the player controls. When the player first meets Alex, she's actually saving Gordon, and she does this more than once. Alex herself needs saving a few times, but she's not a damsel in distress. On top of that, she gives Gordon the tool that will ultimately make his role of saving the planet possible, the gravity gun. There's an implied romantic relationship forming between Alex and Gordon, but this is not a drive of the narrative. Their relationship could be seen as a companionship between two people that mutually rely on each other for support and survival. Alex could very easily be replaced with a man and the story would still make sense. Alex definitely fits the profile I've created for strong female characters. She's attractive but not hypersexualized. She's not put into any gender roles. Her sexual desires are only indirectly addressed, but she's certainly in control of them. She has a distinctive, well-written personality that is not cliched, and she expresses a wide array of emotions. She's technically, physically, and mentally skilled. She's also necessary for the story. Gordon Freeman is the savior of the planet, but not without Alex Vance. Alex is not only a very positive depiction of women, but embodies valuable human characteristics. What is disappointing about the case of Alex Vance is that Half-Life 2 came out in 2004. That's 10 years ago. Since then, there have been very few characters to follow in her footsteps. So where are all the Alex Vances?
You're really brave, Salim. Someday, this is all gonna be over. And you can just go back to being a kid.
Jodie, played by Ellen Page, is the protagonist of Beyond Two Souls. Jodie was born with an entity attached to her named Aiden that gives her unique powers. Because of this, she's experimented on and used as a tool. The player embodies Jodie as she struggles through a life of isolation, hardship, love, and ultimately being the savior of the planet. Did you catch that? The savior of the planet in this game is a female. The player has the option to mold Jodie in different ways through an indirect decision-making mechanic, so Jodie is capable of being a number of character types. She can be cruel, kind, deceptive, a lover, or a fighter, and what a wonderful relief it is to see a female character given so many options. Like Alex Vance, Jodie possesses all the traits that I think construct a strong female character. First of all, Jodie is never hyper-sexualized in the game. Secondly, Jodie does not serve a gender role and her gender doesn't drive the narrative. When it comes to the writing of her character, she's extremely detailed, multifaceted, and isn't used as a trope. The narrative is entirely based on her, and she expresses a wide array of emotions, from aggression to empathy. The most profound aspect of Jodie's character design, above all else, is that she's shown as a woman of desire. The player does get to control whether or not she acts on these desires, but doesn't control her sexuality itself. For example, in one chapter the player can control Aiden and sabotage a date that Jodie is on. Doing this causes Jodie to angrily lash out and accuse Aiden of controlling her, reprimanding the player's choice of interfering with her happiness. This changes the relationship between the two.
I hate you! Do you hear me? I fucking hate you!
I shot the hell out of that guy, huh?
Yeah, you sure did.
I feel sick.
And you just hang back like I told you to.
Well, you're glad I didn't, right?
I'm glad I didn't get my head blown off by a goddamn kid.
You know what? No. How about, hey, Ellie, I know it wasn't easy, but it was either him or me. Thanks for saving my ass. You got anything like that for me, Joel?
We gotta get going.
Ellie's the co-protagonist of the post-apocalypse game The Last of Us. She's 14 years old, foul-mouthed, brave, and one of the best-written characters to date. In The Last of Us, Ellie's the only known person immune to the infection that's wiping out humanity. Although it can be argued that she's tokenized by her role, she's also the most important character in the game. Her purpose in the story is more important than the role of her co-star Joel. This breaks one of the long-held uses of females in games. The player controls Joel for most of the game as he escorts Ellie on her journey. But this doesn't put Ellie into a defensive trope. She is a child after all, but Joel and Ellie become dependent on each other. She fights and helps in combat, isn't afraid to get her hands dirty, and challenges Joel throughout the game. They both make decisions, have fleshed out personalities, and drive the narrative. What is remarkable about Ellie is that she is the played character at a critical point in the main game. Joel becomes severely wounded and Ellie rescues him. She fights off the bad guys and gets him back up on his feet. Alone, as a 14-year-old girl, in a world full of zombies and cannibals. Now that's just awesome. In addition to the game, as well as a comic series, is dedicated to Ellie as well. The Last of Us is very much a story about Ellie and Joel, not one or the other. Ellie has all the defining characteristics of what makes a strong female character. She's not hyper-sexualized, and thank God she's only 14. Personality can function without being specific to her gender, and she challenges gender roles. She's sort of cliched, but is not a trope. The story depends on her, and she expresses every emotion that a male character is typically entitled to. In the Left Behind DLC, we also learn that she's in control of her sexuality as her and her friend share their first kiss.
Sorry.
Alex, Jodie, and Ellie give an optimistic look at the future for female characters in video games. Along with them, the new Lara Croft and Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite are leading the way to accurate and fair representations of women. They do have their weaknesses and pitfalls, but isn't it amazing how far we've come from the damsel in distress days of Princess Peach? And yes, I do recognize that males have been repeatedly misrepresented, but as they make up most of the characters in video games, they're given many more opportunities and options for roles. What I would like to see is more games about solo female protagonists. The female characters I've talked about all have male counterparts, and they're all great characters, but it's time to see women as strong on their own without a man to make her presence acceptable. For too long, a female's been used as plot devices for male characters, served male fantasies, and been put into positions of inferiority. Females do exist outside of these functions, and gamers are screaming to find more characters that they can identify with. I know I am.